Good evening, everyone. I'd like to open the November 23rd meeting of the East Whiteland Zoning Hearing Board. We're going to change the agenda around just a little bit this evening. We're going to begin tonight's meeting with appeal number 2020-12, the application of Chad Hutchinson, and then go to 2020-13 after that. Mr. Hutchinson, are you here?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. I believe there's a variety of new exhibits that Mr. Rao has, and there may be more than that, but Andrew, do you want to introduce the new exhibits that we've got?
Sure, and just to update where we are from the virtual hearing last month, I believe we had all of the exhibits marked as board's exhibits initially last month. We were up to exhibit B6. So the board is adding exhibit B7, which are printouts of the Google map views. And you'll recall during the hearing last month, there were Google views put on the screen. So we've printed those out and made them an exhibit if needed. Exhibit B8 for board 8 is going to be the zoning officer packet, which I have circulated to the Hutchinsons and also to Mr. Skaggs for his neighbor clients. And that includes some photos and a sketch from the zoning officer, Mr. Locker, showing approximately where the property line appears to be going through the corner of the existing shed. And then we're marking as exhibit A1, as applicant 1, all of Mr. and Mrs. Hutchinson's photos that they have provided. And then we'll mark as exhibit N1 for neighbor 1, the photos provided by Mr. Skaggs for his client, and those have been circulated to the Hutchinsons and the board as well. So with those 4 additional exhibits, I think we're up to speed, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you. So Mr. Hutchinson, you want us to bring us up to date on the survey that you did and how your pictures and that you presented?
Sure. So
and just for the record, Mr. Hutchinson's already sworn from the last meeting. I do not recall if Mrs. Hutchinson was sworn.
No.
If you'd like to speak, why don't we have you sworn in as well right now?
Please raise your right hand, ma'am. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And just state your name for us, please.
Cheryl Hutchinson, spelled with a C, Cheryl.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so on Saturday, November 14th, we had Abacus Surveying come out. They're out in Honeybrook, and they surveyed the property. They verified pins, put in some extra stakes for us, and confirmed that the corner of the existing shed does in fact cross the line into the neighbor's property. And I believe there are some Mr. Locker's drawings and photos shows that, and some of ours as well. So, and just to reiterate, what we're trying to do here is our whole objective here was to get a new shed and make sure remove the old shed from where it is now and get a new shed on our side of the property line.
Hey, Mr.
And
Hutchinson.
Mr. Hutchinson, do you want to walk the board through the photos that you provided?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And I think Ted has those available to share.
Please, Zach, but yes.
Or Zach, I'm sorry.
Okay. So the first one's just the confirmation letter that we had the survey done by Abacus. Just want to give you some proof. And as you said, Mr. Locker came out and confirmed it as well. This photo is just for some perspective. The current shed sits at the end of our driveway. It's a very convenient location. The fence meets up to it, that kind of thing. That's why we're looking to put a shed in a similar location, but obviously completely on our side of the line by a few feet. You can go to the next one. This shows again from the driveway, just looking up at the slope of our yard, a little perspective of where the shed sits and where it is with respect to the gate. And the house is just off screen, actually to the left. Next one, please. This is the side of the shed, and you can see the property marker there, a little bit left of center with the pink flag hanging off of it. The board that you see on the ground in front of the shed is the location of where if the front of a new shed would be if we were granted the 2-foot variance from the property line. Next, please. This shows where the shed would come all the way out into the middle of our yard if we were not granted any variance whatsoever. So that would be the front of the shed. If the shed had to be 10 feet from the back of the shed had to be 10 feet from the property line. And there are 3 photos here showing this. So this one's a little different perspective, looking out at the front of the house from inside the yard where the front of a new shed would be. As you can see, it sticks out to about the middle of the existing gate, which really does not line up with the driveway whatsoever. It also all but eliminates a gate there. You can see there's a tree up against the right side. So this location would be, coming out this far would be very intrusive to the lawn. Next, please. And then the opposite view from the driveway, you can see where the front of the shed would be without variance, with having to have the 10-foot distance. Sorry for the photobomb of the dog there. Yeah, so you can see how far out into the lawn that would sit, and I especially want to point out how far off the driveway that would be, and curb appeal and encroachment into the lawn would just be, it would really look terrible. Next, please. And the last one here, I just wanted to show, if you would scroll down a hair, please. So there's the property marker that was put in. And from that property line to Mr. Jungo's fence there in the back, where all the trees and the brushes, that's 19 feet of distance. So if, in addition, with this, the corner of that shed right now is 4 feet over, a new shed would come in 4 and then another 2. So we would be moving, a new shed would be 6 feet farther away from my neighbor's property, 2 feet on our property, and 19 plus feet from the usable space of my neighbor's yard that is on the other side of the fence. That's all I have for my photos.
And would the board like to see Ted Locker's sketch, the zoning officer's sketch, as well on the screen?
Yeah, let's put that up. So when I look at this, it looks to me like it's that back corner of the shed is more than 4 feet over. It's 4 feet plus something.
Plus or minus 4 feet.
It's plus or minus. It's plus or minus 4. Oh, I see what that is. It's plus or minus 4 feet. Okay. Right there. Okay. Mr. Hutchinson, I guess the question is, where do you want to put the shed now? Remembering that chunk of driveway that you have that matches up with the shed is non-conforming also. So your driveway is supposed to be 10 feet from the property line. So where are you suggesting to put your new shed?
We're suggesting new shed parallel to the property line, but 2 feet in.
Okay. So it looks like you've got to put this new shed significantly different. So you're asking for a variance of 8 feet from the ordinance.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Right. That's a lot. You've got to take this shed, man. You can talk to your neighbor about whether this existing shed has to come down or not. But since you're putting in a whole new shed, the ordinance describes that as 10 feet from the property line, and you can put it anywhere on your property 10 feet from the property line. But it looks like you've got to do something with the existing shed, maybe.
Right. Well, our plan was we want to tear this shed down and put a new one in this location.
Right.
Yeah, we want to be obviously we want to be completely away from the property line.
Well, 10 feet is completely away.
Oh, I understand, but the 10 feet also puts that shed out in the middle of our lawn.
Yeah, right.
That's why we're asking for a variance.
But you're asking for a variance of 8 feet.
Yes, correct.
And a big part of the reason why we're asking for the variances because right now, like Chad said, there's 19 feet that are on the other side of the fence from the Jungos and to our property line.
Mr.
And
Jungle, yeah, that's irrelevant here. I mean, the property line's the property line. Where that fence is, I don't know how the fence got there. But that's fairly irrelevant.
Would the board like to hear from Mr. Skaggs and Mr. Jungo with their exhibit N1, and then you can ask collectively any questions that you wish?
I'd like to ask one question before we move
Sure.
on to the other party. So right now, the existing shed does not line up in parallel with the property line. So just so I understand what we're doing, but it does line up in parallel with the end of the driveway, correct?
Correct.
Right. So the proposal here is now to, or the request is to grant an 8-foot variance to allow you to place the new shed 2 feet from the property line as depicted by your surveyor along the entire length of the shed. In other words, the shed will now be, the orientation of the shed would be in parallel with the property line.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Skaggs, are you ready to go?
Yes,
And I believe your client was sworn in the last hearing.
Yes.
I don't recall. So Mr. Hutchinson, just so I understand, you intend to rotate the footprint of the shed so that the right side of it would be parallel to the property line?
That's right. Mhm.
And in the pictures we saw with that board that you said was 10 feet, would place the shed 10 feet away. What part of the shed were you
I'm sorry,
referring to?
you broke up there for a second. Can you repeat that?
What part of the shed were you referring to would be where that board is located? The backside or the?
Be the front edge. The front of the shed would now face the inside of our backyard instead of the driveway.
Okay, so right now the shed, the front of it faces your driveway,
Yeah,
and you're going to change the front entrance to face the interior of your lot?
right.
Okay, so the front edge of the new shed would be where that board is if it was 10 feet away?
Yep.
Can we put that picture back up or some of those pictures back up?
And Zach, that was the exhibit A1 packet. That's the one. Thanks.
So where the wood is now, that's going to be the front?
Yes,
And so if you had to move it 10 feet away from the property line to be about where that board is?
that's correct.
The back of the shed would be where? 2 feet from the property line?
No, in this picture, it would be 10 feet from the property line.
I'm confused with this, what this board represents.
That the board always represents the front edge of a new shed. And in this one, this would be the front edge of the new shed if we did not get any variance whatsoever and we had to stay 10 feet from the property line.
Okay, so this is the front entrance to the shed.
Correct.
That board is
Oh.
facing the other way, right? Facing towards the property line.
no,
No, the front doors of the shed would be right where those boards are. So the back of the shed would face the neighbor.
So the back of the shed would be how far from the property line?
In this picture, 10 feet.
Okay,
Can you go to the next picture?
So just in terms of, these are all exhibit A1 as a packet, but internally we were just looking at what Mr. Hutchinson marked as 4A, and now we're looking at 4B.
Right.
So that's the same location, it's just a different angle?
Correct.
yes.
Yeah, 4A, B, and C are the same position of the board from different angles.
All right. Do you plan on moving part of your driveway too? Or do you need to do that if it's going to face the interior of the lot?
we haven't talked much about the driveway yet. I mean, our hope is that we can still line up mostly with our driveway with getting this variance. Otherwise, everything's really out of alignment. And it's really going to look bad from the street.
And we still hope to have a gate there because we use the gate to get the lawnmower in and out, and the kids go in and out of the gate a lot.
Yeah, we use that gate constantly.
If I can ask, are you going to have any shed doors still facing the driveway the way the existing shed does, or will the doors only face the interior of the lot?
Well, we haven't finalized, obviously, what shed. We haven't purchased a shed yet. One of the options is certainly to get a door on the side, which would face the driveway. Let's say it that way.
And go ahead, Mr. Skaggs. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
Your train
thank
of
you.
thought.
If you moved it so that there was at least 5 feet from the shed, which would be 4 feet from your footer, wouldn't that provide enough space?
I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Well, you're asking for a variance of 8 feet.
Correct.
If you could meet at least half the setback requirements and move it in 5 feet from the boundary line and only 4 feet with your footer, wouldn't that give you enough room in your yard and still be able to use your?
I'm not sure. It's going to be very out of alignment with everything we already have in place, especially the driveway. That's why we're looking for the 8-foot variance. I understand that it's a lot, but it kind of keeps everything that we have now in place, and it also takes the shed completely off my neighbor's property. We don't want to be on Mr. Jungo's property. That's just silly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think my client would have an objection if you could at least meet a 5-foot setback for the shed itself. I mean, the extra foot for the footer is not going to matter because we're not really going to see it.
Mr.
Well-
Skaggs, you're referring to a footer. Are you talking about the gravel bed?
Yeah. I think the testimony last time was he needed a foot outside the envelope of the shed for the foundation or.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're
Yeah.
saying you'd be okay with a raised stone bed as close as 4 feet from the property line and the shed itself no closer than 5 feet from the property line?
Yeah, if you can see Mr. Jungo nodding his head, yes.
Well, may I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
From Mr. Skaggs, from you and your client's standpoint, if you allow us 5, why can't we have 2?
Well, if I ask for 5, why can't we have 8?
Because I'm the one who's put up the money for this, and I'm hoping to get this variance to put in a new shed.
Yeah, but you're the one with the burden. So my client's willing to not object to half of what the township requires. Whether or not we object or not, you still got to get past the township.
I understand that. I'm just wondering why there's an objection to be 2 feet from you and your client.
Because he wants some space like everybody else in the township.
Okay, and I know it's sort of irrelevant, but there's still already 19 feet of space between his existing fence and the shrubs and our property line.
Well, yeah, but that's his property. You don't get to take the benefit of his property.
I understand that. I'm just saying if you want space, that's not space that anyone's ever going to use.
You have our position.
Thank you, Mr. Skaggs. Again, there's an attempt at a compromise here. I'm still of the opinion that you could make this work at 10 feet from the property line. The gate may need to be realigned. You've got space there to do that. The fact that the driveway extension that goes into the old shed, I think is kind of irrelevant here. I mean, you're going to have a new entrance. The gate is the new entrance into the shed, so that looks like it lines up fairly well, give or take a foot, with your line there that would put the whole shed 10 feet from the line.
Well, if you can flip down to 4C, please, Mr. Locker.
Yeah.
The alignment there, look, if you look at the left edge of the driveway, kind of where the trash can is, the shed is going to be completely misaligned from the driveway. And it would be right in the middle of the existing gate. So if you take that whole gate out, the only thing we have left is basically that left door. That's all there is as far as space.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry that the shed got built there and you extended your driveway into that shed, but
We did not. This has all this is all existing.
yeah, well, whoever put it there, they put up the gate too. That's not our problem. If you want to put a new shed on your property, it has to be 10 feet from the property line.
So you're saying you're not going to grant us anything?
I'm listening to the other testimony. We've got the other members of the board here can chime in. Mr. Skaggs has offered you some comments.
And we would be open to that compromise if the board would allow it.
Joe, your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad that the parties are open to compromise, right? I mean, we have a situation where it appears that the existing structure is sitting on the neighbor's property and the neighbor is willing to not object to a 5-foot variance. And I think I just heard Mr. Hutchinson say that if we would be open to granting a 5-foot variance, that's something that would be acceptable to him. Is that right?
That's correct.
I think under the circumstances, if the neighbor is agreeable to it and Mr. Hutchinson is willing to remove the existing shed and place the new one 5 feet from his surveyor's markings, I think I would be in favor of that.
Karen, your thoughts?
I agree with Joe.
Kathleen?
Same. I always like to see a compromise.
Jay?
Exactly the same thing.
Okay.
And to be clear for the board and the parties, I believe the board understands the compromise to be that there's a minimum setback from the new surveyed property line of 4 feet to the stone base and 5 feet to the shed itself. And as Mr. Samuel elicited in the Q&A, the new shed will be parallel to the property line. So it'll be sort of angled in compared to this picture in 4C.
Correct. I believe that's my understanding.
Yes.
And Mr. Skaggs, there's no objection to that from your client?
No,
And the Hutchinsons would agree to that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion? Are there any more comments? Any more thought? Did we receive any other public comment, Ted?
No, we did not.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
Regarding appeal number 2020-12, application of Chad Hutchinson for a variance relief pursuant to section 200-20A and table attachment 2 of the Township zoning ordinance to permit the removal of an existing shed and replacement with a new larger shed in a similar location on the southwest edge of the property owned by Chad and Cheryl Hutchinson located at 2 Millbrook Circle, Malvern, Pennsylvania. I make a motion that we approve a variance of 4 feet from the parallel, or 4 feet from the marked line of the surveyor, parallel to the driveway, or parallel to that property line, allowing for 4-foot variance for the base, 5-foot variance for the shed to be situated parallel to the line marked by the surveyor.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none. Good luck.
And Mr. Hutchinson and Mrs. Hutchinson, will you waive any requirement to get a written decision tomorrow? In other words, give the board and I a few weeks to put together a formal decision to send to you?
Sure. Sure.
Yes.
Let me ask a question off of that. Should we wait for that written document to move forward with any sort of shed or bed company?
It's probably a good idea. It makes it
Okay.
easier for the zoning officer.
Sure, no problem.
But are you in a hurry to buy that and place it?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We were hoping to do this, earlier in the year, but we wanted to go through the correct channels and do this correctly. So we'll do it when it's the right time. And if that's to wait for your letter, absolutely no problem.
But
Right,
just
well,
to say, sheds are in high demand right now, and because of the COVID-19, wood supplies are in demand, and so there is about a 12-week wait for sheds right now.
well, we should have the decision to you in before Christmas.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for that time waiver. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next on the agenda is Appeal 2020-13, the application of David and Sharon Kormos. Am I pronouncing that correctly, closely?
Mr. and Mrs. Koromos, can you hear us?
Kromas. This is my husband, David Kromas. Good evening.
Hello there. If the chair would like, I can go through the board exhibits and then we could have the applicant sworn.
Yes, please do that, Andrew.
So we have quite a number of exhibits. I'll go through them quickly. And Mr. or Mrs. Koromos, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Thank you. They did a good job in putting together their application packet. And they also helped us to correct a neighbor notice confirmation so the board could see all of the neighbors who were provided notice. So Exhibit B1 is the zoning hearing board application of October 5. B2 is the proof of publication. We have that on reserve, but we've got the My Public notices showing the ads on November 9 and November 16. Exhibit B3 is the staff affidavit of posting, and we have a photo showing the posting of the property on November 12. Exhibit B4 is my correspondence acknowledging the application and laying out the applicant's notice responsibilities. Exhibit B5 is the applicant's neighbor notification letter. That was dated November 10. Exhibit B6, and we now have an updated B6, is the neighbor notice confirmation, also dated November 10 from the applicant. Exhibit B7 is a property survey from the applicant showing property lines from May of 2019. Exhibit B8 is the original subdivision plan from 1979. Exhibit B9 is the Chesco Views photos provided by the applicant that highlighted the projected area, the project area, excuse me. This involves some additional paving for a driveway. Exhibit B10 is a signed statement from Brian and Tara Kaufman, the neighbors at 309 Swedesford Road. They're the adjoining neighbors as to the driveway, and that letter indicates the Kaufmans agree to the driveway extension. And just earlier this evening, I added Exhibit B11, which is the county GIS map, which shows a little more clearly exactly how the properties are situated. So those are the exhibits for tonight. And Mr. Haggerty, would you like to swear the applicants in?
Sure. Can you both raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
And I do not believe we have anybody else on the platform other than the zoning hearing board, the court reporter, township staff, and the applicants. So I don't think we have any additional folks interested. And Ted Locker, you confirm we don't have any emailed public notice either.
Exactly. Have none.
Mr. and Mrs. Cormus, I'm sure this is the first time you've been before the zoning hearing board, and you have been sworn in, but it can be a fairly informal affair here. So don't worry about, if you have a question as we progress through the meeting here, please just ask, okay? You can walk us through your exhibits. Tell us what you're planning.
So I should share my screen?
No, we'll do that for you. Just tell us
Okay.
what you want to show up first.
So there's two photos. They're the Chester County View photos, B and C.
Bear with me one moment here. I'm going to bring up the screen share.
Yeah, so that's our house, and the red line is the Chester County Views property line, and the neighbor's fence also runs along that line. And so does our existing driveway. We want to extend the driveway to cover that dirt section where there was a tree that is no longer there. And in order to meet the pavement minimum, we're extending it a little bit past that. No paving company would just come do that dirt area. So we're trying to extend it by another 13 feet. The total is 625 square feet, which works out for us because we have a teenager who's about to drive in December. And it's a pretty tight turnaround on our driveway. So instead of being able to fit 2 cars, we'll be able to fit 3 and back one around more easily. So you can see the new pavement section is marked. Our neighbor, the only one who can see that area, has signed off on it. And we already have a paving company lined up. So we just had to get a variance approval because you can see the existing driveway, which I think was installed in 1979, does not abide by the 10-foot offset property line rule.
Yeah. So really what you're trying to do is to extend the existing non-conforming driveway.
Yes, the
13
parking area at the top of it, yes.
13 feet along the property line.
Yes,
Much of the new extension and paving you're doing is really 10 feet off of the property line anyways.
yes.
Right. Okay.
And Zach, if you're able to pull the new county GIS map that we sent, maybe the applicants can just show on the bigger map where the neighbor is who
Yes, and if
gave you the approval letter.
that large farmhouse at that circular driveway, that's the Kaufmans.
That's to the north, right?
Correct.
For our court reporter, we try to use north, south, east, and west here.
Correct, north.
Joe, do you have any thoughts, questions?
No, it looks pretty straightforward.
Karen,
No, nothing, no questions.
Kathleen,
Same.
Jay?
Go the same.
Okay. Yeah, it looks okay with me. But here we're just kind of extending a non-conforming use here. It looks like you could, someday use another 10 feet on your back part of your property there. They've jammed that house in really close to the property line. But I guess it's been there for a while.
Yes.
Yeah. Karen, would you like to make a motion in regards to appeal 2020-13?
Sure. Just bear with me. I have to read this off of my phone. I don't have it printed out. With respect to appeal number 2020-13, the application of David and Sharon Koromis for variance relief pursuant to section 200-21 and table attachment 2 of the township zoning ordinance to permit the addition of 621 square feet plus or minus of pavement to an existing driveway on the property located at 307 Swedesford Road in Malvern, located within the R1 low density residential district. I move that the application be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none? Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Mr. and Mrs. Karamas, similar to the hearing that you just heard before, if you'd be willing to grant an extension of time to receive a written decision, we'll get it out as quickly as we can, but otherwise we'd have to try to generate it tomorrow and usually do a full-blown decision so you can rely on it down the road.
That sounds fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Ted, easy question for you. Do we have business for December?
We have a application for the Covenant Presbyterian Church for a new sign that actually would have been on this month, but they asked to hold off until December.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
will be forthcoming.
So that meeting will be held on December 28th?
I believe it is.
Yes, right, okay. So if there's no other business, Andrew, Mr. Locker,
That's it for tonight.
please,
Not for tonight.
please be safe for the holidays, guys.
Thank you. We'll do the same.
Thanksgiving.
Thank
and
Take
Christmas.
care, everybody.
Be careful. Thank you very much.
Peaceful holiday.